Nice.
Jim Box says no audio.
I muted us during the intro and then forgot to bring us back. So, anyways, let's do that again. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Talk Voice. We have a guest today, Craig. He is unprepared and doesn't know what's
to say the
going
least.
on. We don't know what's going on. Uh, you
Yeah.
can see I have a nice our new logo, right? Or it's a shortened logo. Our full logo will be on the new intro whenever I finish that, whenever
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah. And I'm working on an outro as well. It's going to be tied into a skill, so it should be pretty neat. That's the plan.
Sweet.
I think it's neat. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so on the topic of rebranding a little bit, so let's talk voice, right? We also have a Discord. So if you want to plug that real quick, that's always a good place to have a discussion or reach out. And
Exactly.
currently, I know you will have been on Mastodon for a while now. Um, I flip flop between everything, and I'm not really a super social person like I thought I kind of was.
Oops.
But I am on Mastodon, and feel free to reach out there, and we can explore what's going on out there. Um, but we
Yeah,
will get.
Craig actually is the one who told me a lot of about Mastodon.
Okay.
So uh, I don't know if you would be the master at Mastodon, but no,
I forgot not to even talk to you about it.
yeah, you did. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, uh, yes, that would be great to follow us on there. Um, and we'll get to all Craig's deets later when we're into the Beaningful Conversation with Craig. But first of all, I wanted to spill the pot beans for those who have PlayStation 5s or 4s and are on the PlayStation Plus subscription. You can
Okay.
now play Horizon Forbidden West. I was very excited because I was kind of cheap and didn't want to pay full price. for it. So I was holding off until it was on PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
I love the first one. Did either of you play Horizon, or am I the only one here?
So I have I didn't go the PlayStation route. That's on my
Okay.
list someday.
Okay.
My gaming time is fairly limited with two young kiddos. Um, Mostly we're playing Mario or something like that. But I've seen gameplay of this and it looks amazing. All kinds of, you know,
For sure.
customizations and functionality. Um, Really, really cool. Now, my question is, so with this PlayStation Plus, does it come with all the expansion stuff as well? Or
Not always. It depends on the
okay,
game.
gotcha.
So, like, I know Xbox's version of this. It
Mhm.
does come with the X. I think it does. No, no, no. I lied. No.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? Luna. I'm thinking of Luna.
Luna, okay.
Yeah, Luna. If you have the Luna subscription, and the game is on there, then you get all the expansions.
I see.
But Luna doesn't have that many games, so
Okay. Okay. Well, neat. Do you game at all, Craig?
I want to say that I wish I were, but the truth is, I think the newest console we have in the house is probably a PlayStation 4,
Okay.
and no, I don't even think it's a PlayStation 4. I think it's a 3, and I
okay.
haven't touched it in years.
Yeah.
I wish I did, but I'm actually more of an old school gamer. I mean, I enjoy the whole Mario thing. That's fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy those games. I like all the games, like the classic arcade games from the '80s and stuff,
Nice.
things like that. But I don't play a lot of video games, as it turns out. I'm more of a board gamer.
Okay.
Okay.
I enjoy doing that,
Yeah.
and so I have over 100 different board games I could pick from at any time.
Wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Impressive.
Fantastic.
Uh,
Monopoly is not even one of them.
Yeah.
Monopoly isn't.
No,
Oh, okay.
I hate
I have
that game.
actually
I hate
three or four monopolies. So, but what type of gameplay?
More like Euro games.
Mhm.
Some of my, like Catan, I enjoy. I mean, my very first three kind of starting games when I started out several years ago was Catan and Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne.
Nice,
I'm still a big
nice.
fan of those. I think my favorite game right now it's a toss up between, I don't know, I guess probably there's one called Shifting Stones. I took it with me to Code Mash and we played after hours like every night there, different people joining me and everything. And I think I'm responsible for that game being purchased like at least 10 times after that because I everybody was like jotting down the name and saying that, and one person ordered it while they were at the table.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I've heard
I'm
really good
I'm
things
pretty
about it.
sure I've played
Yeah.
that on a online version of it,
Mhm.
of Shifting
That's the
Stones.
first time I played it there was online.
Okay, online. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I forget what that website is called, but there's a bunch of board games that you can play. But yeah,
Yeah.
Board Game
cool.
Arena.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's one of my biggest challenges. Where I live, we have a hobby shop, and it's got its Lego section and its card section and the Pokemon and the Magic, the Gathering stuff, and then they have two massive walls of just board games. And I stand there and look like a dummy because I'm like, what do I want? What do I pick? What am I in the mood for? And then how am I going to find someone to play with
Play.
too? That's always the trick is trying to match everyone's interests and things. So,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, I mean, we have that trouble. We have some family friends that come over and play from time to time, and like I speak at different conferences and stuff, and I usually pack as many games as I can, and still not, still have clothes, and
right,
so
right,
we find opportunities to play after hours.
yep,
But yeah, that's about the only times I get to play. I haven't played. In fact, I think the last time I played a game was at Code Mash, so it's been about a
Okay.
month.
Okay.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
want
that's cool.
to, just haven't been able to.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
cool.
we can go straight into our Beaningful Conversation with Craig Walls, um,
Yes, yes.
aka Hobuma One on Twitch, or Habuma at Fostenden,
Yeah.
Fos, Fostenden.
Something about open source, free open source software, or F. I don't know what the F stands for, but
Okay.
off and
.org
then
on um,
It's not
uh,
that paid open source. Yeah.
Mastodon.
right.
Um,
Cool.
so,
So
Kevin, kick it off.
yeah, if you don't mind, something that I'm always interested in hearing is how did you get into development or code or just the tech space in general? Because for me, I grew up in the middle of nowhere, still live in the middle of nowhere, and wasn't exposed to this kind of technology and things. I mean, I had a typing class, but that was the extent of it. So I always like to hear about everyone's journey into the tech space. So if you could talk just a little bit about that, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. Funny thing is, I grew up in a very small town in southeast New Mexico called Jal, Jal.
Huh.
We exported our nowhere to you because it was, I mean, just it was, I like to joke around, it's a real small community, but tight knit. All three of us would go out and hang out from time to time. No, it was like maybe 2,000 people. It was like
Oh wow.
nobody. And but at some point, I can't remember when, it was like junior high or something like that.
Okay.
My dad brought home a Commodore VIC 20, and that was fun. And
Mhm.
then he
Awesome.
brought home a Commodore 64. That was better. And I was
Mhm.
actually, I love the Commodore 64. And I learned a lot of my programming from that machine.
Yeah.
And then I eventually, I just knew this is something I enjoyed doing. And so I got
Nice.
into development. I was that they had a programming class at our high school, which was odd, because it's such a small town. But they
Sure.
had a programming class. It was taught by the high school football coach, which was also odd. I mean, he's a great guy and all, but
Yeah.
it was taught by him, and it was so basic that I ended up having fun with it. And I remember there was the same lab where the computer classes were taught was also used for a computer software class, where not programming, but teaching people to use the PFS right and things like
Oh,
that.
okay. Right.
And I borrowed one of the copies of the other teacher's PFS right disk, and I replaced it with my own version of PFS right. So it looked exactly like PFS right in every respect,
Uh-huh.
but no matter what you typed, it typed what I wanted it to type. And that was fun. And I
Yeah.
remember
Wow.
after I did that, um, the coach teacher came up to me and says, "So, do you know anything about what happened to Miss Miller's PFS right?" And I'm like, "I might." And he goes, "That was pretty good." Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
And so
cool.
after that, I mean, that's what I knew I wanted to do. I went to college, got a degree in computer science,
Mhm.
which means I learned a lot of algorithms I never actually used because they're all like encoded in libraries now.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
I've been doing this forever, it seems. It's
Cool.
just
Nice.
what I enjoy doing.
Well, that's awesome. So when you graduated, then you immediately jumped right into the tech space,
Yes.
or you kind of okay?
I got a position at a no longer existing telecommunications company, and I had no idea what I was doing, none whatsoever. And I remember they were talking about ATMs on my first day. I was in a meeting. They were talking about ATM.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay, because in my mind, I'm making sense of this. Okay, ATMs, they have to have networks, and no, they were talking about something completely different, asynchronous transfer mode. It had nothing to
Oh.
do with money machines. Um,
He's like, yeah, I
I
have a
was so
card,
lost.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's funny, like everyone's journey and how they kind of jump into it and everything. Mine was a little bit later in life. I started in healthcare, and then whenever things got into the like electronic healthcare records, was my first real exposure to it. So but I always enjoy hearing everybody's backgrounds and stories and their trajectory of where they're headed. So
Yeah, I totally find it interesting, especially people who didn't start with a CS degree. I think my story is boring. It's the people who started with something else. One of my co-authors on one of my books, he started out in advertising.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
Rod Johnson, the creator of the Spring Framework, he was a music major, and it's just very interesting
Yeah.
backstory. Those are more interesting to me than my story, where I've just been doing this all along.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you kind of brought up the fact that you have a few books, actually, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, yeah, a few.
So, so my, I was looking, so I actually picked up my CS degree later in life and all that. And my first language was Java. So that's what they were teaching your object-oriented programming with was
Hmm.
Java.
Right.
Same.
And my professor, who's hopefully not watching this, that sounds weird to say, I didn't really get a lot from him. You know what I mean? But I really wanted to learn. And yeah, I had YouTube and there were some tutorials and things out there. But you wrote a Java book, correct?
That's right.
Okay. I recognized the name and I thought, wait a second, I think I looked up this book. So I actually have a Kindle version of the book for
Which one?
the Java. Um,
No, it wasn't on Java specifically. It was
uh,
on
Spring to
the
action or
Spring in Action.
maybe hold on. I'm gonna have to double check myself now. I'm
while you do
pretty
that,
sure.
I'll
Yeah,
continue
yeah.
on.
Thanks.
Um, uh, what was I going to talk about now? um, I was going to bring back to you were talking about how you were working on a Commodore 64 and whatnot. I didn't have a Commodore 64, but we had an old, like, the one of the first IBMs back in the early 90s. Maybe 90, 96 or something like that. We had an IBM, and we had to do everything with command prompt. It was pre Windows being installed on everything. It was still MS DOS.
Right.
But I would do everything command prompt. Nowadays, my coworkers, younger coworkers, actually some are older than me, just coworkers in general, do not like to work in command prompt or terminal. And I just don't understand why. And I was wondering if that's the reason why I enjoy. I don't really enjoy it, but I don't hate it like they do. Do you enjoy working in terminal, or do you like
I
working?
live for the command line. You have far more control, far more power there
Mm-hmm.
than in most. I mean, I definitely I use VS Code for editing, and I use some of the facilities that are built into it for doing certain things.
Yeah.
But most of my work is done all at the command line. I just prefer that.
Okay. Do you code in like Vim, or do you do VS Code?
No, I don't do Vim. I
Okay.
learned various versions of VI when I was in college because
Mm-hmm.
that's what you had to do.
Right.
And then I learned Emacs, and I like, well, okay, this is better. VI is not that great. I hated VI, and I'm going to probably upset some of your viewers, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You can't spell evil without VI. It's just I can't use VI any longer than it takes for me to set up Emacs or something like that. But even then, I don't even use Emacs these days because VS Code is so much better for most of what I do, especially for developing Alexa skills.
Mm-hmm.
I've been using for my Java work, for my day job, all the Java code I do. I've been using Spring Tool Suite, which is just a variation of Eclipse, and I like it a
Okay.
lot. But I've been trying to make myself use VS Code for some Java stuff, just so I have that experience more than anything.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's odd to me because I can go nuts with Code when I'm doing JavaScript and when I'm doing Alexa skills. As soon as I start trying to do Java in there, it's like this weird. It's like not natural. It feels wrong, but
Mm.
I've been trying to make myself do it.
Yeah.
Nice. So no Xcode for you?
Um, a little bit.
Are you?
I
I was gonna say, are
I've
you a
been
Mac or a PC?
I'm Mac, but I haven't
Okay.
used Xcode that much until a few months ago. I can't remember when it was exactly. It's certainly been within the last 6 months for sure. I decided one day, hey, what the heck? I'm late to the party, but let's build an iOS app. So I did, and I Swift UI and all that. It was actually a fun experience. It's on my to-do list to do more of that. I just hasn't bubbled up anymore since that last time I did it.
Nice, cool. So all right, that's what I was gonna add. Kevin, did you find what you're looking for?
Yeah, I was wrong. But I may have to pick up Spring in action and see about that. I might have to do that one.
So, can you give a? I don't know what the Spring Framework is. I did not use it, and when I was developing websites in school, um, I don't really remember much about the Java portion of it. I like Java. Don't get me wrong, but now I have nothing to do with Java, so it just like been erased from my memory. Um, what is there like a short blurb what Spring is?
The best I can give you is that it's sort of, I don't know, the de facto standard framework for developing enterprise and cloud Java apps. And that's like the elevator pitch. Beyond that, it actually has a lot of pieces. It's a fairly big kind of portfolio of different sub projects that you can either choose or not choose to use and just ditch them if you don't need them. They help you deal with all sorts of things like certainly you can build web applications, you can build APIs.
Okay.
You can work with persistence with various types of databases, relational databases, document databases, graph databases. Has security, like a Spring Security is like a security framework built on top of Spring that offers at its core authentication and authorization, but it's really richer than just that. That's just kind of the entry into Spring Security is getting those two things out.
Nice.
There's stuff for developing for Kubernetes. There's stuff for tying up your microservices in the cloud. And I'm not even touching the surface of it, but there's a whole lot that it does.
Gotcha.
But it's a big portfolio, then you get to kind of a la carte pick what you need for your project.
Oh, nice.
That is pretty neat. Yeah.
Cool. And it's kind of the Spring Framework itself is kind of the core, the core of it. But then in the last, I can't remember when it was introduced, certainly in the last 10 years, this thing called Spring Boot, which is sort of a meta framework on top of Spring. And it makes even Spring makes Spring easier. So you can literally stand up a web application and it makes it more springy. Or as some of my colleagues say, it makes it more beautiful.
It's nice.
Yeah. But yeah, literally you can stand up a REST API hitting a MongoDB database in probably about, if you know what you're doing, about 10 minutes. It's like a no-brainer.
Wow.
And I'm talking, and then I'm kind of thinking through it all. And there's a lot of ceremony that kind of comes with Java, the language.
Mm-hmm.
But if you kind of look past some of that ceremony, we're talking to do what I just described for a fairly simple API with fairly simple persistence, talking maybe somewhere between 20 and 50 lines of code at most.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Nice.
Gave me something to look into. That's always nice.
For sure.
Cool. Well, before we get into what got you into the voice side of it, I have this shelf here, right? And you can tell that it's empty. And I was going to ask, if it was your shelf, what would you put on it? But I think I know. I think it might be something to do with peanuts.
Actually, that's just this office. My office is Peanuts. I've been a big fan of Charles Schulz and Peanuts forever.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of my house is Disney.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, different rooms are a little bit more obvious than others, but like our living room, which is just off adjacent to where I'm at right now, we have a ton of Disney decorations in there, but my wife has made sure that they're subtle. They're classy. They're not like just, big posters of Mickey Mouse or anything. It's very, very nice. And then in our basement, we have more blatant Disney stuff,
Okay.
and just all over the house. We're big Disney fans, as you
That's
can see
awesome.
from my hat.
I saw that. I saw that. I just got back from Disney World in December. So that was pretty nice to see the whole Mickey's Christmas party and all that.
Oh, you did the party. Cool.
That was impressive. It's definitely a
Yes.
recommend. So,
The Christmas party was one of my favorites until we did the Halloween party. The Halloween party's awesome.
oh, so now I have to go back. Shucks. Darn. Cool.
I don't
Cool.
even remember what we did 2 years ago. But we went during. I think we went during the Christmas time, but I'm not really sure. But we're actually going to Disneyland this year in the summer, so
Nice. Nice.
which we'll get into your skill here in a little bit. But I little teaser.
Yeah.
Craig developed a skill called mouse guess, so we'll look at that in a little bit.
Perfect.
Did you have
Perfect.
some other questions there, Kevin?
Yeah, just the progression of how did you pick up voice? Was it just kind of a side thing for you that you kind of heard about, or was it something that was just a natural progression of what you were working on at the time? Or everybody's kind of got a different jumping on point for that as well.
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in the concept of voice, either directly or indirectly, because my as a youngster, I was always interested in sci-fi, and the one thing that sci-fi told me is that you can talk to computers,
Right.
and I found out when I got that VIC 20 that that wasn't true, and it was very disappointing. I still stuck with it, obviously,
Mhm.
but it was disappointing. I couldn't talk to my computer, and then Siri came along, and that was really cool. I actually looked even before Siri. I looked at some um, voice specifications that came out in the, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s.
Mhm.
I looked at those, and those all sounded interesting, except that they required a budget greater than I had to tinker with. And so I
Right.
decided to forego those. Siri came along, and it was exciting and fun until it wasn't anymore. And because you could only do so much with Siri.
Mhm.
And but it's still nice. It's still, a promise was starting to be fulfilled about science fiction.
Right.
But when Alexa came along, I didn't jump on it right away because I was just figuring I was going to be disappointed again.
Hmm.
And I had this opportunity one day. I had no time, or I had nothing to do, lots of free time, and I had an opportunity to tinker with the Alexa Skills Kit,
Okay.
which, for those who may not know, is the SDK for Alexa. And it was actually a ASK version 1. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that was
Oh
Yep.
a
wow.
special time. And I was tinkering with it, and I created a skill. I published it, and it's still out there. It was a stupid skill. It's just like a fortune cookie type
Oh yeah,
thing.
I
It
saw that.
randomly picks a fortune,
Yep.
and it's a stupid skill, really. But it got me involved in it. Got me tinkering with it. And I didn't even own any Echo devices at all at that time. I
Oh
just did it
okay.
all from the developer console,
Hmm.
and I ended up getting a couple of Echo Dots, and then I ended up getting a full blown Echo, and then I started getting Echo Shows, and now I don't think there's a room in my house that doesn't have at least one, if not more,
Right.
Echo
Yep.
devices somewhere in it. I
Yep.
walk around. My favorite device right now is the talk socket on my phone,
Oh
so I
nice.
Yeah.
can talk to
Yeah.
Alexa when I'm out and about. It's pretty cool. And but anyway, that sort of got hooked. I enjoyed that experience so much, and I enjoy it so much more now that it's ASK V2, because
Mhm.
V1
Hmm.
was
Rough.
it was much fun as it was. It was rough.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's like I said, it's always neat to hear how people get into it. Some people, it's just, you know, I got a dot for Christmas and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. Or I wanted this functionality for myself. So I created a skill and then published it, that kind of thing. Um, what was your experience with voice, Will? You were kind of one of the
Yeah.
intro OG grandfathered people as well, right?
I don't remember what, or I was doing some searching and whatnot. I was in school at the time.
Mhm.
getting my associates in software development, and yeah, I just found this thing called Alexa. I didn't have a device at all, and I was like, "Oh, you can make like games for it. Oh, that's pretty cool." Or like different facts things. I can develop something for Alexa. I'll
Mhm.
try that out. So I developed a fact skill, of course.
Right,
This is
right.
back in the day when you, there was templates, but it wasn't really good templates.
Mhm.
So
For sure.
you still had to know a little bit what you're doing, which I didn't because I was just getting into JavaScript, and I'm like, what is this thing called Node? I'm not being
Right.
taught what Node is in school. I have to learn everything on my own. Uh,
What's wrong with this school?
right?
I can tell you
Uh,
everything about Alan Turing, but you know, I can't
nice.
code.
Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, I made a fact skill, and then back then they were actually giving away prizes for new developers.
Yeah,
So I made another skill to get an Echo Show. I still have it somewhere around here,
sure, sure.
but yeah.
Well, you were into the games, Will. Is there something that you like to focus on, Craig? Like, do you like the game aspect, or do you just like a certain niche or anything that you
I
find a
want to like
passion
the
for?
game aspect, but I'm not much of a create, I'm not creative enough to create good games. Although that said, I do have an extensive notebook filled with an idea that I've baked up. It started off as an Alexa skill, and the idea morphed into an actual like card game that I could create, and it would
Oh,
still work as an Alexa skill. And
Nice.
so one day maybe I'll do both of those. I just
there we
haven't done
go.
that yet. But I'm generally interested in the idea of, well, two things. One is enabling voice for existing applications that don't currently have that sort of user
Hmm.
interface, that
Yeah.
to basically offer abilities that are just more convenient when you can speak to it instead of navigating through several menus.
Hmm.
And mostly the reason I'm interested in that is to show that the fact that this isn't just a toy, you can do real things with this. You don't have to just build games. And I mean, nothing wrong with the games. Games are
No.
great. It's
Yeah,
not
I understand
just
what you're
about
saying.
games and fart skills and things like
Oh
that. You
my
can actually
gosh.
do real things with it.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm most interested in right now, and I started getting into it a few years ago when I got an Echo Loop, and which is now discontinued. Um, Moment of silence.
Hmm.
But it was the idea of building skills that are mobile, that are on the go, that actually, not that you can't play a fart skill sound when you're on the go. I mean, you certainly can do that, but and not that you can't interact with just any skill for that matter when you're on the go, but skills that actually shine, that actually are able to give you location relevant information
Hmm.
for whatever it is you're doing. And that's interesting to me. That's super cool because I remember several years ago when I first started getting into this, there was a t-shirt and a hoodie and a few other things that I also own that have a big logo on them that say Alexa everywhere. And
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
that's not really true, is it? Unless I can actually take Alexa. I mean, if I'm at the grocery store and I want to ask Alexa something, can I? And at the time that wasn't true,
Hmm.
but now it is
Right.
because you have you have the Echo Loop, you have the Echo Buds, which are, I love these. They're
Hmm.
just good as earbuds. Never mind the fact you can also talk to Alexa on them, and of course my talk socket. And
Right.
so the idea that I can actually, wherever I'm at, talk to Alexa, that's opened up this whole new possibility of types of skills I can create that
Hmm.
help people wherever they're at, even
Yep.
if
Yeah.
they're not at home.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Nice.
That it's similar to a kind of a same vein as mine. Mine was I got into it for the accessibility side of it because I was in healthcare, so I saw people with Parkinson's, and they would have trouble using their devices, and so when you can just talk to it, which for the most part was something that they were capable of, it just made a night and day difference in their lives.
Right.
And then even these things that are coming down the line with healthcare integrations and the residential aspect. So you have a nursing home community or a skilled nursing facility, and you can just use your voice to talk to the nurse or to turn your lights on or what have you, instead of, if you have that mobile impairment. So it's neat to see that.
Yeah, I like to occasionally talk about that aspect as well, even though that's not something I think about a lot when I'm working on skills.
Mhm.
I was at a talk a few years ago. A friend of mine, I've known him for years. His name's Scott Davis, and
Okay.
he presented a talk on essentially on accessibility, and it was so awesome. And not the same one I was in attendance at, but he has recorded that talk. So if you look on YouTube, I'm sure you'll find it, Scott Davis,
Sure.
and
Scott
something
Davis.
about accessibility. And one of the things he said, and I'm not quoting it, it's more from memory here, but he said something along the lines that at some point, everybody has a disability of some sort. For whatever reason, your hands are busy. Maybe you're driving or your hands are in the turkey or whatever it is. You can't use your hands at that point. In that way, at that moment, you're disabled in that regard. And
Right.
maybe sometimes you can't see something. It's dark or whatever. But you can still talk to something like Alexa, or you can talk to other things. I mean, that wasn't he wasn't really he mentioned Alexa in his talk. That wasn't the kind of the centerpiece of his talk. He was just talking in general that at some point everybody has a disability for at least a little while, and you should still be able to offer you should still be able to offer functionality to those people whose hands are busy at the moment. But also, if everybody thinks for a minute that, okay, my hands are busy now, I can't use my hands right now. Think about the people who have that problem all the time.
Right.
How are you
Right.
going to design your websites, and how are you going to design your applications to enable them to interact with your application so that they can do that? That's a great
Absolutely.
talk.
Yeah, I'm gonna absolutely look that up. I wrote that one down. So, well, I could ramble all night about this stuff, but I think you had some skills that you wanted to test out, Will.
Yeah, for sure. Let me get everything pulled up here.
Cool. While you do that, how about two truths and a lie? You have anything for that? And Will and I are gonna guess if you have anything. Putting you on the spot, I know.
Okay, well, I don't have anything, but I could probably come up with something.
Okay.
So
Two
I'm supposed to
truths.
state two things that are true and one that's a lie, and have you figure out which one's which, right?
Which one's the lie? Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly I can't think of anything without getting weird.
No worries. No
It's
worries.
all right. We're
That's
good.
all right. Will's working fast, so we're good.
Yeah. So the first one I have on the list is Mouse Guest. Let me throw the link here in the chat while I'm at it. And this is when you're planning like a visit to Disneyland or Disney World, and to help you, also at Disneyland or Disney World, also correct?
Right.
And to help you plan it, and then um, uh, real time action, wait times. That's amazing. Anything else to?
It gets even better than that, though.
Okay.
The wait time thing is cool because, I mean, certainly it's interesting for me to sit here at my house and ask Alexa, what's the wait time for a Haunted Mansion? I mean, that's interesting because I'm a Disney parks geek, and that's just something I find interesting. But it's more useful when you're actually in the park, and
Oh, for sure.
so it doesn't matter if you're in the park or not. You can still ask the question, and it's going to tell you, whatever the wait time is. But one of the things I've actually been working on this weekend, it's not finished yet, but it's actually doing pretty well. It's my testing is going really well on it. Is that in addition to telling you what the wait time is, it'll also look at the forecast for the rest of the day, whatever the forecasted wait times are, and it'll suggest to you either go ahead and write it now because the lines are just going to get longer. Wait because they're going to get shorter around 8 o'clock, or write anytime because it's pretty much stable for the rest of the day.
Wow.
That is amazing.
That is cool.
Amazing.
All right, let's get this started.
Yes, please. I mean,
open mouse guest.
You want to launch the mouse
Yes.
mouse.
And you got to
right?
say, you got to enunciate. I really hate the fact that I can't change the invocation name
Okay.
because sometimes it hears me say mouse gas.
Open mouse guest skill.
Okay, here's mouse guests. Welcome to mouse guests. I can answer questions about Disney parks such as park hours, attraction wait times, height requirements, lightning lane availability, and the locations of food and services. What would you like to know?
Disneyland food.
Disneyland monorail in Disneyland has a
So,
standby
Craig, do you
wait time
have
of 20
Twitch
minutes.
up
How else
on
can I
your-
help you?
I don't, so I'm not hearing
Okay.
anything.
You and
Sorry.
I don't hear things in the background. Yeah.
So it brought up Disneyland monorail.
What other Disney parks information can I help
Yeah,
you
that's
with?
weird. I shouldn't know anything about the monorail.
Disneyland food.
The line for Disneyland monorail in Disneyland is currently 20 minutes long. How
There's a
else can I
I
current
don't
help you?
expect
wait.
the queen to understand that.
Current wait time at the monorail for 20 minutes, which is still pretty impressive, but that's not what I asked for.
What other
am I
Disney
supposed to
parks
say something
information can I
different
help
than
you
food?
with?
Yeah, but it's interesting that you talk to it that way because now I'm thinking in my head of how I can tweak it so it would answer you if you said that. But,
Right.
now you can ask it if you wanted to know about food. You could ask it, for example, and before you try this, let me give you a disclaimer on it. You could say, "Where can I get a churro?" And in order for that to answer, two things have to happen. You have to enable location, so you have to go through the permission stuff to enable location. Number two, you have to actually be in a Disney park.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure you're not. So that
Nope.
it'll tell you that,
Oops.
yeah, you're not here, so I can't help you. But it based on where your location is, it'll tell you where the nearest churro will be found,
Okay.
or Dole Whip, or burrito, or beer, or whatever it is you're looking for.
Nice. Okay.
All for LeFou's brew.
All right. Let's
Yes.
do some wait times at Galaxy's Edge. We'll try that. I have to reopen it though. Open Disney guess skill. Or no, not Disney.
I can't find that skill. To find skills, go to the skills section of the Alexa app.
It is open mouse guess skill.
Okay,
Oxygen Box
here's
says,
mouse
"Can you
guests.
ask it about Bruno?"
Welcome to mouse guests.
No, we don't talk about
talk
I
Bruno.
can
about
answer
Bruno.
questions about Disney parks such as park hours,
But now I've got an
attraction wait
Easter egg I need
times,
to put in, so
height
thank you.
requirements,
There you go.
lightning lane availability, and the locations of food and services. What would you like to know?
Wait times for Disneyland Galaxy Edge. I don't know. If
I
it's
don't
called
know anything about an attraction named Disneyland Galaxy Edge.
Okay.
What else
Galaxy's
can I
Edge is not
assist
an
you with?
attraction.
It's not attraction.
It's a land.
It's at land. Okay. I have nothing. I don't know what.
What
to
other
ask.
Disney parks
Yeah,
information
but
can I help
it's
you
no
with?
one-
interesting because you're asking kind of in a not human way. You're talking to it like it's a robot, and so that makes me think I need to actually add more utterance, or more sample utterances that will react to that. Because I don't even know if it'll work with what you said. It may, but I know if you were to say, "How long is the line for Rise of the Resistance?" You should answer that.
How long is the line for Rise of the Resistance?
Unfortunately, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance in Disney's Hollywood Studios is closed at this time. Also, the standby queue for Star Wars
What did it
Rise of
say?
the
3
Resistance
days?
in Disneyland is currently 155
I know
minutes
it was long
long.
earlier
How else
today
can I help
because
you?
of some weird thing going on.
So Disney World, it's closed right now. Disneyland, it's 155 minutes.
Ooh, Oxygen Box has
What
a
other Disney
very,
parks
very good
information can I
question,
help you
Craig,
with?
if you don't mind answering that, or at least, development.
The height
roadmap.
requirement? Yeah, you can ask that. You can ask what the height requirement for an
What is
attraction
the
is.
height
cool.
restriction for Space Mountain?
You must be 44 inches or taller to ride Space Mountain in Disney World's Magic Kingdom. You must be 40
That's
inches
cool.
or
I have
taller
two
to ride
young
Space
kids,
Mountain in
and that was our
Disneyland.
biggest thing was, can this one ride that? Well, we'll wait and see and check their height and everything.
Oh, you just have to put them in high heels and have like a Abraham Lincoln hat on. They can ride
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Just
Nice.
take the girl to that bippity boppity boo hairdo place with the heels and all that. Yeah,
That'll do it.
that
Anyone
is
else
really
got
cool.
any questions to ask?
Not at the moment. I'm going to be testing this one out myself. So
No,
Yeah.
this is great though. For what we saw about it, it was really good.
Yeah, the other thing I added this weekend, I mean, right now, if you ask for the wait times, it's just going to tell you the wait times, but it's going to give you that forecast information as soon as I get that sorted out.
Okay.
The other thing I did, I actually started it about 2 weeks ago, and it's one of those things that it took me about an hour to write the code for it, and like several days to create content for it, because that was definitely the
Oh,
hardest
it's so
part.
true. It's so true.
But
Yeah.
and it's not out there yet, so you won't be able to try it yet. But if you ask it, give you a fun fact or tell me something interesting,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
if you're in the parks, it'll pick a fun fact from where you're located, somewhere nearby, so you can actually walk over to it and see what it's talking about. If you're not in the park, it will pick a random location in the parks and then give you the whatever would have been the fun fact from that location. And right now, there's 154 fun facts spread across 6 U.S. theme parks. I have not gone to the water parks. I have not gone to the resorts yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I have stuff for those. I just haven't got to them yet. I'm starting with the parks. And yeah, it's cool. I mean, and it's a little bit more of a long form answer. It's not a short answer, but
Okay.
it gives you either some hidden details or some historical details or just something interesting you might find interesting about that part of the park.
right.
So I was telling a friend of mine, imagine that if you wanted to, you were really wanting a tour of Disney World or Disneyland, and you wanted to pay me to follow you around just to be able to answer a question when you had it.
Yeah.
That's what this does, except that you don't have to pay me to do that. You don't have to buy my ticket or my airfare or my hotel. You just ask.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That is,
Well done.
that is absolutely fantastic. Truly.
Oxygen Box was wondering how long the fireworks show is. Do you have anything about that?
It does not know how long it is. The general answer to that is 20-ish minutes, no matter what fireworks show it is. But it doesn't know how long it is. It does know what time it is, though.
Okay.
And that's new. It's not out there yet either.
Okay.
Whenever I cut my next release, that's what's going to be out there. But it knows what time different shows are. You can even ask it what time is the 3:00 parade, and it will answer your question. It's not going to say 3:00 necessarily, because it's not, that's the general term for the afternoon parade, but
Okay.
it will tell you what time the afternoon parade is, even if you ask it what time is the 3:00 parade.
Okay. Cool.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to bring my buds along to Disneyland and try this out. This is great.
I'm just going to have to schedule another trip. So.
You should. Because you said LeFou's Brew, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But if you go to Disneyland,
okay,
they have what's called boysen apple freeze, which is essentially the same thing, but it has boysenberry in it.
Well, I need to end the show early. I need to book some plane tickets. Yeah, I think I had one of those like every day. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, just the environment. So cool. We could talk about Disney all day too. Good grief. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Will?
There was one more. No fluff, just stuff. Did you want to talk about that? What are we? What is it? Can you give us a little rundown?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, No Fluff Just Stuff is a conference tour. I've been speaking on the tour for like 20 years now. Except for one person, I have the longest tenure on the tour. And so I've, of all the people who've been on it, I'm the one who's still there for 20 years or so. And a few years ago, I thought to myself, it'd kind of be interesting to kind of show off a little bit of this Alexa stuff, especially using like APL and some other things like that to have display. If you were to just ask about the shows. And so it doesn't do much right now. I have a big list of things I want to do with it.
Okay.
And I spoke with Jay Zimmerman, who's the organizer of the No Fluff Just Stuff series, and he gave me several ideas and these just things I need to find time to work on. And but right now it does three basic things. You can say, when is the next show? You can ask it, when is like the St. Louis show, which by the way is the next show. And so that you'll get the same answer either way. And you can say, who is speaking at like St. Louis? And it'll give you a list of who all the speakers are. Okay. But I have other ideas, to give it more, to basically be a conference guide, tell you what room things are in, to tell you what people are presenting on. If you want to ask it like, okay, what Kubernetes talks are being given at the St. Louis show, it'll basically do a search and just filter it down to just those talks, so you know what to expect. You'll be able to favorite them and things like that. And nice. Ultimately, No Fluff Just Stuff has its own mobile app, and I don't do that. That's somebody else who does that. But ultimately, it would be nice if we could sort of tie those together, so that if you have a favorite, either if you favorited it in the app or you favorited it in the skill, that'll match up.
Yeah.
And so you can set your own schedule and everything like that. And so that'd be really cool. Right now it just does three basic things.
So you're paying attention in office hours today?
Yeah. But I've also been interested in account linking for other reasons before that. But yeah, that definitely was a topic that I definitely tuned in. Well, actually, to be honest, I left the room for a second. When I came back, people were asking questions about account linking, and so I missed part of the conversation. But yeah, I was listening to what I could, and that's kind of prompted me to post into the Slack a little bit later some of my grievances with voice forward account linking.
Gotcha.
Well, that kind of brings me to maybe my last question. Is it's where do you see voice in 5 years, or what do you want to see brought to maybe the SDK or what have you, the Alexa skill kit, to improve things, to get it to where you want it to be, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's those are like two very different questions. I definitely see voice in the next 5, 10, 100 years, whatever period of time, gradually becoming a little bit more. It's great now, don't get me wrong, but becoming even more natural, becoming less robotic. And to some degree, as skill developers, we have the responsibility to create answers and responses that make it less robotic. But even the platform itself, I think, could shift a little bit here and there to make it less like that. And I guess one of the most frustrating things is that there's some very simple things that could be done, but that aren't done for security reasons. And I understand why. I get it. And that sucks, because this is why we can't have nice things, is because there's people out there who suck, and they make it bad for everybody else. And so there's things I wish Alexa could do that it can't, and a lot of it has to do with just security. And the fact that we can't trust certain people to misuse those things. Perfectly innocent uses would be great, but because as soon as you enable it for innocent uses, you're also enabling it for nefarious uses, and that sucks. And I'm bummed about that, but I don't know what to do about it either. The one thing, if I were to really pick on anything I would like to see improved right now, and it's the thing that's just been foremost in my mind for the last several weeks, because I had to deal with this, is testing. And we have talked about in office hours today, A/B testing. That's great. You have beta testing support in the platform. That's great. But as far as like things like a unit level testing, or even kind of maybe a step above that, more of an integration level testing, we have some of that, but there's no real, like, nobody's really focused on what that means. Bespoken has BST, and I like BST just fine. They also have virtual Alexa, best I can tell, they're kind of just sitting on those right now. They're kind of idle. They're not doing a whole lot of development of either of those.
Yeah.
There's one I enjoy using lately, which is the Ask SDK test library for Node apps, obviously, but Ask SDK test is great. It's similar, if you've ever dealt with virtual Alexa, it's similar programming model to write those tests. But the one thing I can't do, and this is where I really got on my soapbox about testing a few weeks ago, is APLA. Now, I get it with APL. That's a little tricky to test what visually appears on the screen. And maybe somebody has ideas there, and it'd be great if they did. But I'm just using APL. I use APLA a lot to create the audio responses, to create just the voice, to mix it up, because whenever you ask, for example, what time is the 3 o'clock parade, or what time is this show or that show? Different shows have different time profiles. Like they may only have one show, but it lasts 30 minutes, and I know that from my API, and so I'll tell you it's from here to here. But other shows may have 10 showings all day long, and they don't have a specific period of time they last, but it's at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3:30, whatever, and you have to list those out. So I have an APLA document from hell. It's like this massive, very clever APLA document that knows how to present this properly, no matter what the kind of the time profile is for those shows.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as that APLA document got interesting, I wanted to test it. And that's where things fell apart, because there was no way whatsoever to test the logic in an APLA document.
Right.
None.
Mm-hmm.
And
I see what you're saying.
It
Without
became a pain.
Just manually putting in the
yeah. And that's the
sets.
other problem, manually, because I'm hitting a real API, and that data is changing out from under me as I'm testing it. And so it's just hard to test it. Now, I did bake up something. It's very Rube Goldbergian in nature. It's like all these different pieces that come together. I do have a way now to test APLA documents with fake data, and to ensure that they give me one, I can write assertions against them and say, yes, it either passed or it didn't pass. I have a way of doing that now. It sucks, but it's better than nothing that I had before. So
it's like a Band-Aid type thing.
Yeah. And I mean, long story short, I created another skill whose whole purpose in life is to just render an arbitrary APLA document with some arbitrary test data. Meanwhile, I have my real skill, and I create a symbolic link from here to this one. And in my test, I actually call that skill, and I give it the name of the APLA document I wanted to test, as well as some test data. And I say, here, go. And then it renders something, but then I invoke it through SMAPI, and I get the text response from it, and I make an assertion that the text response is what I think it should be.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, it's
it
lots of moving parts.
Yeah.
But it works.
The Rube Goldberg analogy was really good on that. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I appreciate the answer. I know it wasn't the easiest of questions to answer, but yeah, this was a fantastic conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
No problem. Absolutely. It's been fun.
We're a little bit after time. Did you want to skip the?
That's up
things?
to you. So typically what we do at the end of our stream, just to wind down a little bit, is we have an item or two that we've found or we've picked up this week that we just break down a little bit. Mine this week was just a baseball book, because I'm a baseball fan. It's called The Wit and Wisdom of Baseball. It's got a bunch of little quotes and things in it. Just get me through until I actually can get some baseball in me.
Nice. Mine was I've been eating a lot of overnight oats, and I've been making everything. My first attempt was not a recipe at all. I was just off the hook. I was like, I'll throw this and this and this. If you don't know what overnight oats is, it's oats, like rolled oats. You would usually use in cooking. You can use other oats, but rolled oats is the best for this type of thing. And then you put in like some type of milk, I put in either almond milk or um, coconut milk. Those are the only ones I've used so far. Um, and then you put in whatever you want, like sugar, cinnamon, uh, whatever. It's like oatmeal, but it's somewhat cold, but you can also warm it up. Anyways, so I've been actually looking into recipes now. So this last one, I don't think it was from this person I'm sharing here, but I'm pretty sure I have some saved on my Pinterest for this. And uh, go with the recipe route is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
And at least starting out, when you finally figure out what goes well with what, then you can, you know,
Hmm. Make some
go
better
off the book.
combinations and things. Yeah,
But yeah,
cool.
that's all I wanted to share. So
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. Um, I think we'll wind it down a little bit, but just a friendly reminder to check out the Discord, any and all of the socials to connect with us. And yeah, we'll catch up with you next week. I want to say thank you again to Craig for being here. We really do appreciate the time that you took to answer some of our questions and just listening to my rambling. So I apologize
Yeah,
for
you're
that
quite
part.
welcome. And I rambled too, so it's just part of it.
yeah, you were great, Craig. Thanks a lot. And thanks everyone for watching or watching in the future. Please do uh, like, subscribe, follow all the things. Uh, and yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.